Welcome to Hoovie's Garage, the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube. And first off, I want to apologize because I've been keeping a secret from you all for a year now. I bought a car 1 year ago that is a really amazing, interesting car, and then I never got around to telling you about it. And it's this 2000 BMW M Coupe, which... Yes, this 2000 BMW M Coupe. I've been too embarrassed to tell you about it for a number of reasons, but I'm going to now today because I am selling it no reserve on Cars and Bids after 1 year of ownership. Yes, I'm trusting Daddy Doug's website to sell another one of my cars, no reserve, and the main reason for me selling is this BMW just doesn't fit the narrative. I've made a lot of money, had a lot of views, gained a lot of subscribers from me bashing BMWs over the years, so when I buy one that's actually good, one that actually offers all that BMW funness, the old school charm without all the technology, without the horrible unreliability, well, it doesn't make for any good videos, hence why I've never made one. I bought this car a year ago and I've had to do very little to it. One big thing, but that was kind of an optional thing. Otherwise, it has been a great, fantastic car. And I realized after I bought this thing, I immediately regretted it because why buy a BMW that works? Why buy a BMW that's reasonably sorted, that's not going to break on you and be really stupid? Because that's what you do on this channel. You buy BMWs that are crappy and talk about how crappy they are. So that's one of the reasons why I'm selling it. It's not one of the embarrassing reasons. There's two very embarrassing reasons why I'm selling it. But first, let me show you this BMW M Coupe and what makes it special. Given how fiscally responsible car companies are nowadays, like Toyota saying they can't develop their own sports car without sharing it with somebody else, so the new Supra is basically a BMW, basically this, with some different bodywork and badging, it's hard to believe that this car was developed completely in secret without BMW's knowledge, but that's the truth with this clown shoe, the BMW M Coupe. Now, the convertible we all know and love was unveiled with GoldenEye, with the James Bond movie, but they wanted to make a faster M-badged version with the same engine as the M3, and they did that with the convertible, but it's a convertible and not the best handling thing in the world. And apparently, some engineers in Germany working for BMW wanted a hot hatch with a bigger rear end, and I'm guessing a little more practicality, but more the rigidity of a coupe. But also, I think they wanted this big, giant rear end because Germans like, well, they like badonkadonks. And just look at how wide this rear end is on this little car. It's like an old Porsche Turbo or something with these giant fender flares. Just this baby's got back. Now, I reviewed one of these a couple of years ago, and it was a very, very modified version of the M Coupe with some suspension that felt like it was just two concrete blocks rather than springs. And while this one has some mods, it's not totally unlivable on the street, but it is set up to do very, very well on the track, something that I intended on doing and then, well, really never did. Now, I'll admit I was a little lazy when I bought this car because I had intended on making a video when I took this thing on a road trip to Arkansas shortly after I purchased it. It's a road called the Pig Trail, which is a beautiful, twisty, turning road that happens in the fall. I'm actually heading there next weekend with the SLS AMG. And I had a fantastic time with friends just like I did a year ago with my Porsche 911 Turbo, which I did actually filmed. That was my bachelor party, but I didn't with this car. I just never got around to it. So then when I got home, I decided, well, maybe I should wait until I discovered the true purpose of the M Coupe, what it was built to do, and I never really discovered that. The closest thing I could think of is this car is perfect for one job and one job alone, and I decided I was going to do that job for a day, and then, well, the world nearly ended, so I never got around to it. But let me show you what I think this car was actually built to do. So obviously it's a rigid, small, tight handling car with decent power, great for track days, which is what the previous owner did. He did half a dozen track days or so, had the suspension all set up just to do that. But the practical purpose of the clown shoe, I've discovered, is if you have pets, you can haul your dog back here. You have a net to put up so they don't jump over into the front of the car. But really, I think what this is set up for and what it's perfect for is if you are a well-to-do pizza delivery man, because this space is perfect for a large box of pizzas, and so they don't slide around too much. You can put this cover over it, and then you don't have to smell the pizzas as much with that cover over it, and it helps keep them warm. So I originally intended to go pizza delivering in this clown shoe, and the top is set up perfect for it. The suction cups can go on this glass roof that really doesn't move, it just tilts. But then I didn't want to go meet strangers at the door delivering food for obvious reasons, so I just never got around to it. And then I never got around to taking it on the track. So other than that road trip, I just parked it. I parked it for basically a year and never did a thing with it, which is quite embarrassing. But the car itself is in very, very nice condition. One thing that BMWs are known for of this era is the subframe getting all torn apart, say in the M3s, or in these cars, the Z3s with the differential mounts, they will tear out of their structure or whatever, and this one's been reinforced. But BMW, really, you can't even get the structure of your cars right. But other than that, these are very reliable, pretty bulletproof cars, and this one is in great condition. Pretty low miles, too. Now, I only tagged this car recently when I discovered that I was going to sell it, and Doug DeMiro asked me to send him a Kansas plate with a personalized Nantucket something on there. So I did that for him. So when I sell the car, I will send the plate to him as a present because he's my daddy. But look at the car. It's in great shape. Now, when I got it, it had been wrapped before, and there was a lot of residue on it and some bird poop droppings and that kind of stuff, and I was worried the paint wasn't going to come out, so I had a really expensive detail and correction done, and overall, they did a great job. There's very, very minor imperfections in the paint. You can see a little bit of the imperfections in the paint, but really not that bad. The front end is definitely pitted from 20 years of use, but also very presentable. If you want a clown shoe that you can drive without fear, but then show proudly, this is definitely the one. There is one ding up here, just right on the roof. I don't know how that happened. It was right before me, and I know I say roof weird, but I can't help it. Interior-wise, very, very nice. Just some light wear on these bucket seats that are definitely sporty seats, but they're comfortable. They're not from the era of BMW where they're rock hard yet. Very, very stock inside, only 64,000 miles. Original BMW business CD. I love how they put in the extra gauges down here, and the shifter is perfect. Ergonomically, this is just a perfect German vehicle. And while it is very comfortable, it's not that much more roomy than, say, the convertible. You still have the rear shelf, I suppose, right here of a convertible, so you can't get the seat any far back than a convertible. You just have this extra space back here and some big booming speakers, which the sound system is pretty good. The sunroof up here, it tilts, it doesn't slide, which I imagine is why this hump is here, because whatever motor does that resides in this space, but it doesn't open. It all works, though. There's very few repairs that I needed to do, but one thing I decided to do just because it was kind of annoying, which I'll talk about as we take this thing for a drive. Actually, before we go, I guess I should show you the engine. The S52 inline 6. The grills are just wrapped. That should peel right off if you don't like it, but here it is. A very, very tidy engine bay. It has an aftermarket intake. I have the original. Otherwise, very stock in here. And very tidy. Another mod is the Dynon exhaust, which you'll hear in a little bit, but I also have the stock mufflers should you want to go backwards, which you wouldn't want to, but I have them. Let's go. Now, production numbers for the clown shoe are actually pretty healthy. They made thousands of these. It's not that rare. It's kind of rare. Kind of surprising to me that so many people bought this car. I wouldn't have expected it, but it is very fun, and the values on these things are way, way higher than a convertible. Almost double what an M convertible would bring this clown shoe. Well, I don't know. It's selling for no reserve on Cars and Bits, so we shall see. But what I paid for it, well, way more than what I would have paid for, say, an M convertible. Now, I kind of bought this thing, this is the one part I'm embarrassed about, on impulse. I had no plans of buying an M Coupe the day that I bought it on this other auction site, which we will not mention, and I paid a lot for it. I'm not sure what I was thinking, because I wanted another track car. I was getting rid of my 911 Turbo. I know that, something I could take to the track reliably, not break. Because the last time I took my 911 Turbo to the track, well, it exploded, left all the coolant on the track, shut down the track for a long time, so I didn't want to go back there. It was too old, too complicated to keep tracking reliably. And the car before that, my LS Swap 911, well, it blew its motor on the track. And my 911 before that, it blew its motor on the track before the LS swap. I had a Z06 Corvette. That was a great car. I sold it before I could track it, because I thought I would use my LS swap Porsche 911 more, and I sold it right before the engine blew on the 911. I know, really smart. But anyway, it turned out I really didn't need a dedicated track vehicle because I didn't go to the track once. I have a new baby at home, and me going away to do that, well, it's sort of frowned upon. So I had impulsively bought this car that I had no reason to own. I had already done a video on clown shoes, so it was really kind of revisiting something I've already done. And since I have a new baby, or a new baby was coming at the time, whatever I needed to buy needed to have a back seat so I could throw a car seat in it so I could actually use it. And I had so many cars with no back seats that buying another one just seemed really stupid. But the main reason why I don't think this car would work for me as a track car is the horsepower. Now, I need more horsepower because I am not a very good talented driver, and I kind of have a big ego. So before, this thing has a lot of power. Before, I had a 400 plus horsepower 911 turbo, 400 horsepower Z06 or the LS-Swap 911. All had lots of power to where I could keep up with my friends no problem in their ZL1 Camaro or something else. But in this car, it doesn't have 300 horsepower, so it's kind of slow. But it has the handling where some driver talent could make up for that deficiency, but I don't have the driver talent. So when I drive this thing, even though I haven't had it on the track yet, I do find myself longing for, well, that extra 150 horsepower. But if you don't have a big ego and you're comfortable in your masculinity, you should be fine with this thing, because it is very fun. Now, I have done some work to it. There has been a few minor things that have happened. The brakes, they were pretty warped when I got them. I had the rotors turned and new pads put on. Also, the airbox, the boot for the airbox started leaking a vacuum leak, which was a very easy fix. The one big job I had to do was the clutch. Unfortunately, the throwout bearing was making a pretty nasty rattle when I had the clutch out. So bad that I would have to turn the car off, say when I was at the bank or the drive-thru, because you couldn't hear me over this rattle that really didn't do anything. It wasn't going to hurt the car or really break anything, but it was just kind of embarrassing. So I opted to have the clutch replaced, and it turned out the clutch had been replaced before with some weird clutch that had a different flywheel or whatever. So we went back to the stock flywheel and the stock clutch, and it does feel a lot better. So I'm glad that I did it now that it's done. But it was a pretty expensive job. Now, I've been telling myself to sell this car for many months now, but usually I talk myself out of it right about now after I've driven this thing for a while. I dive it into a few turns, and really I don't have anything like this. I don't have a really tight, nimbly, fun car like a Miata, but with extra power, and that's exactly what this is, a Miata in a tuxedo. And I fall in love with it again, and then I park it for 2 months and don't do anything with it. Then repeat. I just take it out again and say I'm going to sell it. Let's get it cleaned up to go, and then I do the same thing. But finally, I'm doing it. I've committed to Daddy Doug selling it. No reserve on cars and bits, so bid early, bid often, and hopefully I get most of my money back out of it. I have a feeling I'm going to lose money though, but it's fine. It should go to a home with somebody that's actually going to use this thing for its intended purpose, and not just sit in a garage and have a guy not talk about it because he's embarrassed by buying it. So you're probably thinking, Tyler, you idiots! Well, you actually think that all the time, but this time you think I'm an idiot because why did I buy this when I had nice, fast cars like my Lamborghini Gallardo or several others that I could have tracked? And the truth is, you can't track those cars. They're too expensive. At least somebody of my means can't afford to track a car and crash it, and you don't have the insurance to cover it. And a lot of times the people on the track are pretty careless, and they can slam into you, and it's not even your fault, and then there's nothing you can do. You can't have police out for insurance. You're on a racetrack, so I couldn't do that. I could do my Ferrari 348 on the track, which I actually bought shortly after getting this car, but it is very old. It has 100,000 miles on it, so you can imagine how that's going to end. But I may track it anyway, just because that's what it was made to do. And it's been tracked before throughout its life, but honestly, after I sell this thing, I'll probably search for another track car, one with a little more power, something closer to 400, 500 horsepower, so I can make up for my own deficiencies, and a back seat, so when I want to drive it on the street, it's something that my children can ride in too, because I have way too many two-seater cars in the garage. So hopefully that sums it up. I don't seem like too much of a moron. Well, really, I do. But this is a fantastic clown shoe for somebody that wants a clown shoe that they can actually drive, somebody that appreciates the badonkadonk and actually wants to use this car for its intended purpose and not have it in the garage enshrined or whatever. But yeah, I'm going to miss the curves of this thing. It's yes, this baby's got some back. Thank you for watching.